Hey Peter, how are you? It's good to see
Hey,
you.
great to see you, Hugo. I'm in the great outdoors. I'm
I
in
know
the backyard.
I love the background. I wanted to get a second with you so that I can hear a little bit more about your world and what we do, for example, on the pilot for Mid-Century Modern and kind of how you brought those sets to life and who your team is. Can you start with your name and what you do?
I'm Peter Gurski, and I'm a set decorator for television mostly. And I am a proud union member of IATSE, International Alliance of Stage and Theatrical Employees, Local 44.
Boom, exactly. And we got to work on a brand new show for Hulu called Mid-Century Modern. So are you able to talk to me about what it was like for you, your process on day one of having the script in front of you?
Sure. Great. So the process always begins with the script because the words that are written by our writers and the creative people are our guide.
Yeah,
And then along with working with the production designer who is above me in the grand scheme of things, uh, the production designer, in this case, Glenda Ravello,
right.
developed a plan and designs for us to follow. So day one really is reading the script, becoming familiar, and then talking with the production designer and all the other departments like your department, graphics,
Yeah.
and determining who does what and what needs to be done for the show. You know, it's mostly a clearing out of lists and stuff. So day one is really just becoming familiar with the script, what the script needs, the words, breaking down the script by scene
Yeah.
so we understand what's required of
Well,
us.
for this show specifically, the lead character, Bunny, happens to live in Palm Springs. So, how were you able to build out his character with his home and what he represents?
Well, here's the thing. Um, with being a set designer, I create the world that the character lives in,
Yeah.
along with everyone else in the department. But of course, I think I'm the most important. But I can contrast that with working in the real world as an interior designer because I've done that.
Yeah.
And in the real world, you're working for the client and telling their story. And when I'm working on a TV show, the difference is I'm trying to tell the story of the character, and it's really just from my input
Yeah.
and what I think is going to best tell the story. So there's a lot more freedom if I'm working in TV on a collaborative art department, such as what we had on Mid Century Modern.
And so, when do you start collaborating with, let's say, the executive producers and Glenda Ravello? Is that something that you do at the very beginning, or do you share your vision before you get them involved?
Well, different projects work differently,
Okay.
and the type of project affects how you're going to approach that as well. For example, if this was a full length movie of some sort, there'd be 3 months of preparation. So there'd be lots of meetings ahead of time with all the different departments to make sure the script is being followed, to make sure the producers are getting what they want, to make sure the director's getting what they want. In
Mm.
television, it really is more about the words and the script. So in the very beginning, I work closely with the production designer because they've met with the creative team first,
Right.
gotten all the information and sort of translated that into floor plans and then style boards. Uh, we used to cut out pictures from magazines, but now we just go to the internet and take images and do that and make style boards. And so once that's presented to me, I go into my think bank and determine what's available in all the different venues I have, like prop houses or furniture houses or other places where I get artwork, props, furniture, and things that I use. Then
Right.
I put together a style board of actual items that are available and compare them to what I've been asked to find. And then the production designer and I will have a meeting to determine, can we go with this one couch that's not quite the same? Or do I have to have this exact couch that you want? So it's sort of a negotiation between the dream and what's available in reality. So because of the pace of television, which is very fast,
Yeah.
we make a lot of compromises, but we try not to compromise on telling the story, which is always the most important. But sometimes we can compromise on a sofa or a lamp or something like that.
So, how do you compare this experience for mid-century modern with a show like Will and Grace, which you did in the past?
Well, the new show that we worked on together for
Yeah,
the pilot, Mid-Century Modern, was different because it was a pilot. And the pilot episode just means it's the first of its kind and you're trying it out. And it's the first time it's filmed in front of an audience, which
right.
is the way most televisions are done. So you get a live reaction like you would if you went to the theater. And so it's so important to get that live reaction, to get the comedy timing right of the words. So that's why the pilot's so important.
Yeah,
And it's important for art direction, set decoration, graphics, whatever, to be conveying the story right off the bat. So it's very clear to the viewer who's never seen these characters or this situation to be very clear where the story's coming from. Now, when we were on an established show like Will and Grace, when we came back to it 11 years after it had ended, that bought us a lot of leeway. And plus, the vision of the creative team was that we're coming into their lives 11 years later. Everybody's grown up, everyone's got a bigger job, everybody's making more money. So our goals were different. We needed to show the original sets, which we built original sets. Actually, some of the walls were the original sets.
yeah.
And then we evaluated what would have changed in 11 years.
Mhm.
Oh, probably could afford better artwork and replace the couch with a nicer couch. And maybe there's better light fixtures or things like that. It would be more fleshed out, as if you yourself had been in a place for 11 years. You tend
Yeah,
to accumulate interesting things, maybe not so interesting things. So it's always a mix of what belongs in an environment or a house or an apartment in real life. So we try to imitate that. And sometimes we try and aim a little higher than real life so that we can bring to the viewer that message of what the script is, but also to bring them something they haven't seen before. Because the challenge now that we've had television for 70, 80 years, 90 years, whatever it is, because they had rudimentary television before World War II, but
yeah,
it wasn't regular broadcast television till after World War II and into the 50s. So we've had so much TV, people have seen almost every possible version of what a New York apartment looks like. And our goal was to show them something new and different and surprise them and delight them,
yeah,
because it's all about maintaining the viewer's interest now, because everybody has a shorter attention span.
yeah,
So really try and reach further, especially for a show like Will and Grace that's been around so long. So we did shop better art. We did get better furniture. We did all those things. And then, as you know, you were there that night when we presented the new sets to the live audience. We had
right.
covering it just like in theater. And the actors came out, and wild applause, and the producer said something, and then they revealed the set. The curtains open.
Yeah,
The set's got a standing ovation, which meant we had done our job so well, and that the viewer could see that it was the old Will and Grace apartment.
right.
And yet they were delighted to see that we'd made enough changes to respect the vision of the show and to respect their sophistication, maybe as a viewer, to show them, look, we tried really hard to bring you a new and fresh approach of this old tired set that you'd seen so many times before.
Yeah, exactly. And the first time that I got to really experience that with you was the show that we first collaborated on was Fuller House.
Right.
So
When you were baby Hugo.
Honestly, I got my first real Hollywood jobs from you on that show, and I was able to see how you were transforming, for example, DJ and Stephanie's bedroom into these new characters' bedroom, and you were telling your own story of who these characters are and what they had on the walls. So, how was your process for bringing new characters to older sets?
Well, I think Fuller House is a really great example. And I'm so glad that our set decorating office was right next to where you were working at your previous job, which I will not mention, and that we got to connect because we built a really collaborative process,
Right,
which it's really about everybody getting along and yet, trying to respect your own wishes and dreams, but also working together with the team.
right,
And you certainly came full on as a team player. And as you saw in developing those sets, especially with the schedule we had, which was, one show a week. So
yeah,
we only really have, 4 or 5 days to prepare. So we might ask for a graphic or a sign or a poster or a picture or something that at the last minute that's going to complete telling the story. And what's happening nowadays, as opposed to 30 or 40 years ago, is that artists are more aware of their legal rights when their items are filmed, and respecting copyrights is of the utmost importance. So a job like yours in graphics, in developing signage, a poster, a school poster, but also essential in getting cleared images just for family photographs that you might see
right.
on the mantle. And those all have to be purchased from a photo bank that's been approved and copyright cleared and everything. So that makes your job more essential than ever and makes me getting the what do we call it? Collateral, the stuff. When we get the stuff from you, it's super important that you and I can speak the same language and
Yeah.
you deliver what I need and it's correct for, the legal eagles at the studio.
Yeah, I think that if I remember, it was because we were filming inside the new school, and we had to like paste up the walls with a bunch of flyers. And so I got my start as a vendor. So I actually did want to bring up that topic of how do you find your outside vendors, for example, for your artwork, your paintings, and other things like that.
Well, it's interesting because I've been doing it for a while now, as witnessed by my gray whiskers. But you just end up knowing everyone in the business. Like Hollywood's kind of a big place. Los Angeles is a big place,
Right.
but the film business is kind of small. It's like family. You kind of know everybody.
Yeah.
And occasionally there's someone new that comes on the scene, like when you started.
Right.
There's other places that do graphics. There are other places where you can rent art or make art. But what I like to do is go out into the galleries of Los Angeles and try and find new artists who are willing to show their work on a television show. Maybe I can buy their work or a canvas, because if I go down to the brewery art show, which
Yeah.
is what I did last year for MCM,
Right.
Mid-Century Modern,
Yeah.
uh, it was really great because I could walk around during the art show, speak with the artists, see their canvases, and be able to talk to them about me wanting to use their artwork in my vision of the set. And I
Right.
found great canvases or pieces of work for $500 a piece or up to $1,000 a piece, I think is what I set my limit at. And that might seem like a lot to some folks, but that for an original work of art
Right.
is very affordable when you're talking about a studio budget. So I go back into the great big wonderful world of Los Angeles and hit
Yeah.
the galleries and try and meet people that are real artists in the real world.
Right, yeah, I got a glimpse of that on the show Lopez versus Lopez, where we reached out to some Chicano artist and we were able to showcase his work because it really did work with the show and the set that you were building specifically. So great. I wanted to
Oh,
talk
can
about.
I just want to address something with that because I mean, you see me hitting is sitting here and like I'm obviously a white dude who's over a certain age, 50,
Right,
I'll just say for the sake of argument. And, coming up in the business, I work just as hard as anyone else, but possibly who I am and what I am gave me a severe nepotism where, your uncle got you in the union or your dad got you in the union to a much more diverse group of people working in the locals, which is essential,
right,
especially if I'm going to be a set decorator on a show called Lopez versus Lopez, and I'm just the gringo. So if I have someone in my corner like you, who is a person of color, who is from that community, the
yeah,
Latin community, you can keep me from making faux pas, or you can contribute even to a greater degree to
yeah,
say, hey, this isn't the way the culture does it. This is the way it does it. And that's essential for me to learn to be able to respect all the cultures that we work with on a
right,
script by script basis. Now, I still feel qualified to do that because, of course, in a script, we
right,
go all sorts of different places, and it's my job to be acquainted with whatever set that is, whatever culture that is entering into, to be respectful
right.
and create something that is accurate for that group of people. So
Yeah,
it's great.
absolutely.
It's better to have a diverse crew like having you on my side
Yeah.
than not. And I think the industry is changing for the better.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what I wanted to bring up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Jump the gun.
no, I'm saying that I wanted to talk about the team that you collaborate with. For example, you have a lead person, and then who else do you have on your set decorating team?
Well, it's essential that I have a good lead person. And in the bad old days, it was a lead man, but we don't say that anymore because we have so many capable persons
Mhm.
doing that job now, many who identify as women. And they're some of my best lead people that I've had. So that lead person really is my crew boss. They run the crew, they track the budget, they keep track of transportation, returns, dealing with all the prop houses. So, excuse me, I can focus on the creative part. Now,
Right.
we're lucky enough on the shows I've been on, and probably just because I'm a little bit pushy, is that I get to have a buyer
Yeah.
on my crew, which helps a person who goes out essentially and buys things for me or
Yeah.
goes out into the prop house and takes pictures and finds I need two green couches. Go find how many I can rent at that prop house or this prop house. And they go out in the world. And then I go off and research something, or I'm working on something else, or I'm going to a different prop house. And then there'll be a person like you, a graphics person, who really works under the banner of the art department.
Yeah.
And I get to kind of borrow you and use you from the art department because we're all collaborative. And
Yeah.
then I'm also working in conjunction with the art director, who is essentially draws the sets and gets them built and painted or wallpapered or however they're treated. And
Yeah.
then, of course, the production designer. And then one of my most essential tools are my set dressers who come in all shapes, sizes, and genders. And they're the ones who not only move the furniture from the prop house here to the studio over here, they can't break any of it. They have to handle it carefully, but then they have to know how to dress a set, which takes a little bit of, I'd like to say, panache, if anybody knows what that word means anymore. But basically, that you're detail oriented and know that if I'm saying, oh, put the couch there, wait, just go 1 inch this way. That 1 inch can make a vital difference in, to me, how it looks.
Right.
So set dressers with a lot of experience, of course, understand that.
Yeah.
They're great picture hangers for art, canvases, photos, and other things. And sometimes they can rough in a set for you, which means they'll have a basic floor plan of where you want furniture.
Yeah.
They'll rough it in, uh, hang stuff preliminarily because they kind of know how you like things hung, and then you'll come in and do all the final stuff. So a really great set dressing crew is essential for the success of a set decorator on it. If it's a 1 hour drama,
Right.
which is an enormous amount of work.
Yeah, and I mean, I've benefited from having that help on set as well to be able to pull them to either hang up a poster or something like that. So, like you said, we are definitely a community and we're set up so that we all have a way to contribute and make sure that it all flows.
All
So,
right.
I never got to ask you this, but I wanted to know, like, how did you get bit by the Hollywood bug? What made you want to start working?
Well, that's funny because I'm actually a failed actor. When I was in high school, well, even going back to grade school, the story I like to tell is that in fifth grade, the school put on a play, and there was a contest with all the art classes when we used to have art classes uh, to draw two pictures that they were turned into two backdrops. And one was a garden, and one was the interior of a palace. So you drew the painting or whatever and handed it in, and the art teachers decided. Well, I won the contest for the
Yeah.
set design for the fifth grade play. So that's how I got my start. How did you get yours? But I was kind of always in and around community theater growing up, especially
Yeah.
during high school. Then when I transferred to university, when I was trying to figure out what direction I was going in, I took a job as a backstage, um, what do you call it? Stagehand.
Okay.
Sorry. I took a job for the full quarter of the wait, let me start over because I couldn't remember stagehand. All right, I got a job as a stagehand backstage at the University Theater, and it was for the whole quarter
Yeah.
backstage building and painting sets, kind of like the old fashioned way on canvas with casing paint and other archaic tools like a manual Yankee to put in slot headed screws. And now we use Makitas. But that job was a stipend paying job, and I made $90 a quarter. Or a week or some insane stupid amount that actually not I think it was $90 a week paid my rent. Uh but that's another story, kids, from the olden days. But so I was working backstage, and I tried out for they were putting on the show Dracula, and I went in to open call for Village People, whatever it was. Terrible audition. Horrible. Scenery chewing. Horrible audition. And they said, "You know what? You're working backstage, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, probably a good idea. Stay back there and help build sets." So that's kind of my inauspicious start as a failed actor. But from working at university, I actually have a degree in drawing and painting as a fine artist,
Yeah.
and my minor is in theater craft. So I took that, and after I graduated, I worked at a regional theater as a master carpenter, and
Yeah.
then from there worked at an outside scene shop. And this is all in outside of around Detroit, Michigan. Then
Right.
I had friends who moved to Los Angeles and coaxed me to come out. And so I came out and started working as a set dresser and worked my way up to set decorator now, which has been years and years and years. But I just want to say, when I started, like, I really didn't know. I only kind of had an inkling of what I wanted to do.
Right.
And each job sort of propelled me to where I am today because I was open to explore it. So for me, I know a lot of young people know their path right away and
Right.
they work toward it. And that's fantastic. But I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. But found that as I worked, it kind of pushed me to the right path to where I am today.
Right. I mean, I had the same exact experience where when I started, before I even met you, I thought I had an idea of where I wanted to land, but I didn't know that graphic design was a paid job within the TV show.
Right.
And so that was something that I discovered through you. and I was able to finally start going towards that goal of being a graphic designer for a TV show.
Well, the amazing thing about just kind of discovering you was that like you have amazing talent and you were already doing your graphic novel stuff on
Yeah,
the side.
right.
I think working on stage, you were finally able to make like the connection, like, oh, this could be for, yeah, because there's a lot of jobs in the industry that people don't realize. They watch a TV show and they go, oh, they're at somebody's house. Well, it's usually a set, right? That
Mhm.
somebody's designed, built, painted, decorated, made artwork for.
Yeah,
There's 100 jobs that go into creating the environment the actors are on. Now, we're daily living under the threat that, AI is going to make all the actors and all the backgrounds will be artificial and stuff. But we haven't quite gotten there yet. And I kind of like the old fashioned way, which is a hammer, a nail, and a bucket of paint. So hopefully that'll last us a while longer because I don't think, as far as I've seen now, that AI can duplicate the ingenuity and originality of a human mind. I mean, it's a great party trick, and
yeah.
I've actually used it before to help start to write, like, let's say, a speech or a long list or something. But currently, in its form, AI is, I think, you can tell it's limited
It
because
is.
it draws on so many different sources and it feels a little repetitive when I've seen it. But I'm sure before the day I draw my last breath, it'll be breathing down our necks, trying to take our jobs too. Damn
Well,
it.
for those for those that are interested in becoming set dressers, what kind of jobs do you like suggest that they take to kind of start building an experience of doing this craft?
Well, it's kind of, you got to go through the school of hard knocks,
Yeah,
so to speak, because for being a set decorator,
yeah,
it takes a little bit of everything to make a complete set decorator. You have to understand how to read an architectural drawing. You maybe have to be able to sketch a basic idea to communicate what you're trying to do. You have to understand color and how it works together with other colors. You have to understand textures, where to add it, where not to have it. You have to be able to read a script and have an idea in your mind what that is. Like immediately
right.
when I start reading a script, I
Yeah,
see the room, I see everything together, and I can work from that in my own head. So if you're sort of a dreamer person or a visionary person like that, or if you dream in color, you can be a set decorator. But it helps to know technical skills like if you can learn how to, I'm going to call it drafting, but it's technical drawing and everybody does it on a computer now. But knowing scale, size of things versus other size of things, that
yeah,
scale, understanding dimension like 3D versus 2D, like knowing all that technical stuff is great.
right.
But then there's sort of a quality, an immutable quality that's about style, design, and how to put things together. And some of that can be practice. Some of that people are just sort of born with or born that way.
Right.
Some of that can be developed. Like my drawing has gotten better since I got out of university because I practiced and I actually took a couple courses on the side and I
Right.
still do it, pen to paper. I'm not really great on the computer like you are, but a few technical skills
Yeah.
and a desire to create art, I think, can propel you far.
Yeah, I mean, I've always also, I mean, I enjoy working with you on set, but as well as when you get to work with like personal clients and be an interior decorator, I mean, that's the type of stuff that I imagine, like you said, goes hand in hand and that benefits on all aspects of building sets as well.
I think also having a hand in the real world of interior design and
Yeah,
actually building in the real world can really build up your backlog of ideas of how things work and how they go together.
sure.
And actually having to deal with clients who can be a little more firm than even a producer about their
Yeah,
desires. And if the project is running late, and whose fault is that? So, I mean, it teaches you a lot more live people skills because when we're on a show and I'm working with you,
Hmm.
we're all working toward the same goal. We're all on the same side. When you're out in
Right.
the real world, you and the client are like on opposite sides, but trying to come together in the middle. So when I work in the outside world, the experiences I can bring into the studio world, it only helps me, deal with difficult situations to help smooth things over or bring a new technique or something to something we're doing.
Right. And it just helps you keep that muscle going. And even though, like, for example, on the downtime, you still have that going on for yourself.
Yeah, and I found that idle hands are the devil's workshop, as they say. I'm not good. I'm lazy. Like if I don't have a project,
Yeah.
the garage does not get cleaned because I'm busy online looking at all my favorite TikTok creators. So uh, I like being busy. I like being on different projects.
Yeah.
I like being on collaborative projects. I love studio projects so much because it really is about storytelling.
Right.
And some of the stories are compelling and some of them are just funny. So coming onto the scene and working with people like you or any of the other crew members is always an enriching experience.
Right. Well, thank you, Peter. I really appreciate the conversation. I'm glad I got to talk to you.
I'm so glad we've had our little convo. Reminds me of the COVID days.
It really does.
Did I talk enough about you yet? How
We did.
fantastic you
We
are?
I think we covered it. Thank you.
Hire this man. Uh, no, it was really great because, and I think this is a good example to, kids who might be watching this
Yeah.
that, I mean, can I say what you were doing?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So he was working in craft service. He was working for the studio commissary that
Right.
provides food for us on the studio lot. And
Yeah.
his job was to lay out all the hot food, uh, prepare it for us, keep everything hot, keep everything clean, whatever. Like, so it's an important job feeding people, but he had a passion
Yeah.
inside of him because he was at home creating graphic novels. In fact, he has one, Valero, right? You're
Yeah.
still out there trying to sell. And yeah, there it is there on the back wall. Sorry. So he took a chance to approach us
Right.
about doing stuff, and really it was like you were doing a cold call because you had no idea that what you did was a perfect translation to to help and do what we did. And it was so
Right.
great to see you go from this guy working in the kitchen, which is no shame, but also to build your own business and learn the business and really blossom into really your full potential, which has always been amazing to see.
Yeah, no, thank you. I really enjoyed that job because it got me to get to know every department and it got me to really understand where I gravitated to. And at that point, like you said, I wanted to be a painter, a fine artist. I was doing t-shirts. I was doing all kinds of stuff to try to figure out how I can contribute to the shows. And luckily, just by talking to you about what the possibilities are, we landed on this idea of, maybe you could start doing the flyers, you could just start doing the logos. And that was something that I didn't even know where those came from until we talked about it. So it got me going and understanding the possibilities.
Well, I think even maybe our first conversation, I think it was with Steve-O,
Yeah,
my lead at the time.
yeah,
You were out there clattering pots and pans and doing stuff. And we're literally our office was right next to where the food was laid out. So we'd always shout out, when's breakfast going to be ready?
yeah,
So, and I think Steve-O talked to you first
right.
and said to me, hey, this kid, you know, might be
Yeah,
able to do graphics for us because we were always at the short end of the totem pole on that show with graphics because the art department wasn't located near us and they weren't really interested in helping us. So getting you to work with us really was essentially helpful for us because we
yeah,
were able to do what we need to do graphically on our own, separate from the art department, who was actually kind of holding us back.
right.
So, meeting you, kind of curating that relationship and having you enthusiastically step into that role and willing to learn and do things and hang out and check it out,
Yeah.
you like the proverbial sponge. So it really worked out for all of us. I mean, I'm so pleased that we were able to make the connection, because if we hadn't by happenstance talked to you, I mean, we wouldn't have never known. So I'm so happy that, we did find out when breakfast was being served.
Thank you, Peter. I'm glad we got to talk.
Thank you, Hugo. It has been a pleasure.